soon series. As you might have guessed, this one is covering Robin Williams, a famous actor who tragically took his own life in 2014. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and just get into the video. Robin Williams was a very successful and versatile actor. He is known in many houses for his ability to absolutely reform himself into an astonishing range of characters, able to become the lovable and quirky genie from the Aladdin series, to the wise and thoughtful Sean Maguire from Good Will Hunting. In a long career spanning over 40 years, Robin was in everything from stand-up comedy, TV, several critically acclaimed movies, voice acting, live theater, and even a show on Audible. In this video, I'd like to explore the life and career of a man that influenced me early in life and inspired millions. This is the life of Robin Williams. Robin McLure Williams was born on July 21st, 1951, and was known for his absolutely exceptional improvisational skills in a wide variety of voices, and is often regarded by many of his colleagues as one of the greatest comedians of all time. He was born at St. Luke's Hospital in Chicago, Illinois. His father, Robert Fitzgerald Williams, was a senior executive in Ford's Mercury division. His mother, Lori McLaurin, was a former model from Jackson, Mississippi. During a television interview on the Inside Actors Studio in 2001, Williams credited his mother as an important early influence on his humor, and that he often would try to make her laugh to gain her attention. Robin attended public elementary school, Lake Forest at Gorton Elementary School, and middle school at Deer Path Junior High School. He described himself as a very quiet, secluded child who did not overcome his shyness until he became involved in high school drama, the drama department. In late 1963, when Williams was 12, his father was transferred to Detroit. The family lived in a 40-room farmhouse on 20 acres in suburban Bloomfield Homes, Michigan, where he became a student at a private country day school. He excelled in school, where he eventually joined the school's wrestling team and was even elected class president. When he was 16, his father took an early retirement and the family moved to Tiburon, California. Following their move, Williams attended Redwood High School in nearby Lakesburg. At the time of his graduation in 1969, he was voted most likely not to succeed and funniest by his classmates, which is ironic considering he's probably one of the most successful actors to ever live. After his high school graduation, Williams enrolled at Claremont Men's College in Claremont, California, to study political science. He dropped out to pursue acting. Williams studied theater for 3 years at the College of Marin, a community college in Kentfield, California. According to College of Marin's drama professor James Dunn, the depth of the young actor's talent became very clear when he was cast in the musical Oliver as Fagin. Williams often improvised during his time in the drama program, leaving cast members in hysterics. Dunn called his wife after a late rehearsal one night to tell her that Williams was going to be something special. In 1973, Robin attained a full scholarship to the Juilliard School in New York City. He was one of 20 students accepted into the freshman class, and he and Christopher Reeve were the only two accepted by John Houseman into the advanced program at the school that year. According to Robin's biographer, James Dorsville, Reeve remembered his first impression of Williams when they were new students at Juilliard. Quote, he wore tie-dyed shirts with tracksuit bottoms and talked a mile a minute. I'd never seen so much energy contained in one person. He was like an untied balloon that had just been inflated and immediately released. I watched in awe as he virtually camoed off the walls of the classrooms and hallways. To say that he was on would be a major understatement. Robin and Christopher had a class in dialects taught by Edith Skinner, who Reeve said was one of the world's leading voice and speech teachers. According to Christopher, Skinner was stunned by Williams and his ability to instantly perform in many different accents. Their primary acting teacher was Michael Kahn, who was equally baffled by this human dynamo. Quote, Williams already had a reputation for being funny, but Kahn criticized his antics as simple stand-up comedy. In a later production, Williams silenced his critics with his well-received performance as an old man in Tennessee Williams' Night of the Iguana. Christopher wrote, he simply was the old man. I was astonished by his work and very grateful that fate had thrown us together. The two remained close friends until Reeve's death in 2004. Robin claimed that Christopher was literally feeding me because I don't think I literally had any money for food or my student loan hadn't come in yet, and he would share his food with me. Reeve had famously struggled for years with being quadriplegic after a horse riding accident. Their friendship was like, quote, brothers from another mother, according to Robin's oldest son, Zach. Williams showed up at the hospital pretending to be an eccentric Russian proctologist who was going to perform a rectal exam on Christopher. Reeve claimed that this was the first time he had laughed since the accident, and that it prevented him from sinking into a deep despair. Reeve said, at an especially bleak moment, the door flew open and in hurried a squat fellow in a blue scrub hat and yellow surgical gown and glasses, speaking in a Russian accent. He announced that he was my proctologist and that he had to examine me immediately, and it was, of course, Robin. For the first time since the accident, I laughed. My old friend had helped me know that somehow I was going to be okay. Robin did actually pay for many of Christopher's medical bills and gave a lot of financial support to his family. He left Juilliard during his junior year in 1976 at the suggestion of Houseman, who said there was nothing more Juilliard could teach him. Gerald Friedman, another of his teachers at Juilliard, said Robin was a genius and that the school's conservative and classical style of training simply didn't suit him. No one was surprised when he left. After leaving Juilliard, Robin found himself back in his hometown of San Francisco, but he couldn't find work as an actor. Then he saw something for a comedy workshop in a church and decided to give it a shot. Quote, so I went to this workshop in the basement of a Lutheran church, and it was stand-up comedy, so you don't get to improvise with others, but I started off doing obstinately, and it was just like improvising but solo, he told NPR. And then I started to realize, oh, I can actually build an act from this. Williams began performing stand-up comedy in the San Francisco Bay Area in 1976, very shortly after leaving Juilliard. He gave his first performance at the Holy City Zoo, a comedy club in San Francisco, where he worked his way up from bartending. While in San Francisco in the late 1970s, William Williams helped lead its comedy renaissance, writes critic Gerald Notchman. Williams says he found out about drugs and happiness during that period, adding that he saw the best brains of my time be turned to mud. Williams shortly after moved to Los Angeles and continued performing stand-up at clubs including the Comedy Store. There, in 1977, he was seen by TV producer George Slatter, who asked him to appear on the revival of his show Laugh-In. The show aired in late 1977 and was his debut TV appearance. That year, Williams also performed a show at the LA Improv for home box office. While the Laugh-In revival failed, it led Williams into his television career. He continued performing stand-up at comedy clubs such as the Roxy to help keep his improvisational skills sharp. In England, Williams notably performed at the Fighting Cocks. Williams said that partly due to the stress of performing stand-up, he started using drugs and alcohol early in his career. He further said that he neither drank nor took drugs while on stage, but occasionally performed when hung over from the previous day. During the period he was using cocaine, he said that it made him paranoid when performing on stage. Williams once described the life of stand-up comedians. It's a brutal field, man. They burn out. It takes its toll. Plus the lifestyle, the partying, the drinking, the drugs. If you're on the road, it's even more brutal. You gotta come back down and mellow your ass out. Then performing takes you right back up. They flame out because it comes and goes. Suddenly you're hot, and then somebody else is. Sometimes they get very bitter, and sometimes they just give up. Sometimes they have a revival thing and they come back again. Sometimes they snap. The pressure kicks in, you become obsessed, and then you lose that focus that you need. David Letterman, who knew Williams for nearly 40 years, recalls seeing his first performance as a new comedian in Hollywood, where Letterman and other comedians had already been doing stand-up. He came in like a hurricane, said Letterman. And he said that he thought to himself, "Holy crap, there goes my chance in show business." Some, such as the critic Vincent Canby, were concerned that his monologues were so intense it seemed as though at any minute his creative process could reverse into a complete meltdown. His biographer, Emily Herbert, described his intense, utterly manic style of stand-up, which sometimes defies analysts, going beyond energetic, beyond frenetic, and sometimes dangerous because of what is said about the creator's own mental state. Williams felt secure that he would not run out of ideas, as the constant change in world events would keep him supplied. He also explained that he often used free association of ideas while improvising in order to keep the audience interested. The competitive atmosphere caused problems, though. For example, some comedians accused him of stealing their jokes, which Robin strongly denied. David Brenner claims that he confronted Williams' agent and threatened bodily harm if he heard Williams utter another one of his jokes. Whoopi Goldberg came to his defense, asserting that it is difficult for comedians not to reuse another comedian's materials, and that it is done all the time. He later avoided going to performances of other comedians at all to deter similar accusations. During a Playboy interview in 1992, Williams was asked whether he ever feared losing his balance between his work and his life. He replied with, "There's that fear. If I felt like I was becoming not just dull, but a rock, that I still couldn't speak, fire off, or talk about things, then I'd start to worry. Or I got too afraid to say something. I'd start to worry or get too afraid to say something. If I stopped trying, I get afraid. While he attributed the recent suicide of novelist Jerzy Kosinski to his fear of losing his creativity and sharpness, Williams felt that he could overcome those risks. For that, he credited his father for strengthening his self-confidence, telling him to never be afraid to talk about what subjects were important to him. Williams' stand-up work was a consistent thread through his career, as seen by the success of his one-man show and subsequent DVD, Robin Williams Live on Broadway, in 2002. Then again in 2004, he was voted 13th on Comedy Central's list of 100 greatest stand-ups of all time. After a long 6-year hiatus, in August 2008, Williams announced a new 26-city tour, Weapons of Self-Destruction. The tour began at the end of September 2009 and concluded in New York on December 3rd, and was the subject of an HBO special on December 8th, 2009. Backing up quite a bit here, So that pretty much covers the vast majority of Robin's stand-up career. We're going to be moving into his TV career now. After the Laugh-In revival and appearing on the cast of the Richard Pryor Show on NBC, Williams was cast by Gary Marshall as the alien Mork in a 1978 episode of the TV series Happy Days, My Favorite Organ. Sought after as a last-minute cast replacement for a departing actor, Williams impressed the producer with his quirky sense of humor. When he was brought in for the audition, he sat on the producer's head when asked to find a seat. As Mork, Williams improvised much of his dialogue and physical comedy, speaking in a high nasal voice, and he made the most of the script. The cast and crew, as well as the TV network executives, were entirely impressed with his performance. Mork's appearance proved so popular with his viewers that it led to a spin-off television series sitcom, Mork and Mindy, which co-starred Pam Dauber, and ran from 1978 to 1982. The show was written to accommodate his extreme improvisations in dialogue and behavior. Although he portrayed the same character as in Happy Days, the series was set in the present Boulder, Colorado, instead of the late 1950s in Milwaukee. Mork and Mindy at its peak had a weekly audience of 60 million and was credited with turning Williams into a superstar, which honestly back then that's a lot of people watching that show. According to critic James Poniswick, the series was especially popular among young people as Williams became a man and a child, buoyant, rubber-faced, and an endless gusher of invention. Mork became absolutely viral, featured on posters, coloring books, lunchboxes, and a lot of other merchandise. Mork and Mindy was such a success in its first season that William appeared on the March 12, 1979 cover of Time magazine. The cover photo is said to have captured his different sides, the funny man mugging for the camera, and a sweet, more thoughtful pose that appears on a small TV that he holds in his hand. According to Mary Fortwine of the Los Angeles Times, this photo was installed in the National Portrait Gallery in the Smithsonian Institute shortly after his death to allow visitors to pay their respects. Starting in the late 70s and throughout the 80s, William began to reach a wider audience with his stand-up comedy due to his extreme success found as Mork. Introducing 3 HBO comedy specials, Off the Wall, An Evening with Robin Williams, and A Night at the Met, In 1986, William co-hosted the 50th Academy Awards. Williams was also a regular guest on talk shows, including The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, and The Late Night with David Letterman, on which he has appeared over 50 times. Williams and Billy Christie were in an unscripted cameo at the beginning of an episode on the 3rd season of Friends. His many TV appearances past that include an episode of Whose Line Is It Anyway? He starred in an episode of Law & Order Special Victims Unit, and in 2006, Williams was a surprise guest at the Nickelodeon's Kid Choice Awards, and appeared in an episode of Extreme Makeover House Edition. In 2010, he appeared in a sketch with Robert De Niro in Saturday Night Live, and in 2012 guest starred as himself in 2 Fox series, Louie and Wilfred, in May. Fox series. In May 2013, CBS started a new series, The Crazy Ones, starring Williams, but the show was canceled only after 1 season. The first film role credited to Robert Williams is a small part in the 1977 low-budget comedy Can I Do It? Till I Need Glasses. His first starring performance, however, is as the title character in Popeye in 1980, which Williams showcased the acting skills previously demonstrated in his television work. Accordingly, the film's commercial disappointment was not blamed on him, who went on to star as a leading character in The World According to Garp in 1982, which Williams considered may have lacked a certain madness on screen, but it had a great core. He continued with other smaller roles in less successful films, such as The Survivors. His first major break came from a starring role in director Barry Levinson's Good Morning Vietnam in 1987, which earned Williams a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actor. The film is set in 1965 during the Vietnam War, with Williams playing the role of Adrian Konauer, a radio shock jock who keeps the troops entertained with comedy and sarcasm. Williams was allowed to play the role without a script, improvising most of his lines. Over the microphone, he created voice impressions of people, including Walter Cronkite, Gomer Pyle, Elvis Presley, Mr. Ed, and Richard Nixon. We just simply let the cameras roll, said producer Mark Johnson, and Robin managed to create something new for every single take. Robin had a larger-than-life personality. On screen and even on stage, he embodied what was referred to as hyper-comedy. His versatility was completely unmatched, which allowed him to land several dramatic roles such as Good Morning Vietnam, The Dead Poets Society, and Good Will Hunting. In March of '98, Robin was both nominated and won a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for his performance as Sean McGuire in Good Will Hunting. In 2011, Williams appeared on The Graham Norton Show, and Norton asked him, "Is he recording?" He is, okay. And Norton asked him, what was it like to win the award? For a week, it was like, "Hey, congratulations, you got Good Will Hunting's Oscar, way to go," Williams said. 2 weeks later, it was like, "Hey, Mark." Then Williams mentioned how in his speech he accidentally left out one of the most important people in his life. "I forgot to thank my mother, and she was even in the audience," he said. Even the therapist went, "Get out." That was rough for the next few years. In Robin's best mom voice, he stated, "You came from there," and points to her pants. But, how's the award? Poking fun at him for years after for forgetting her. Other performances Williams had in dramatic roles include Moscow on the Hudson, 1984, What Dreams May Come, 1998, and Bicentennial Man in 1999. In Insomnia, 2002, Robin portrays a writer/killer on the run from a sleep-deprived Los Angeles policeman played by Al Pacino in rural Alaska. Also in 2002, in the psychological thriller 1 Hour Photo, Robin portrays an emotionally disturbed photo development technician who becomes obsessed with a family for whom he has developed pictures for a long time. The last film of Williams released during his lifetime was The Angriest Man in Brooklyn, a film addressing the value of life in which Williams portrays Henry Altman, a terminally ill man who reassesses his life and works to redeem himself. Many of his subsequent roles were in comedies. Looking over most of the filmography, one writer was struck by the breadth and radical diversity most of Williams portrayed. In 1989, Williams portrayed a private school English teacher in Dead Poets Society, which included a final emotional scene that some critics said inspired a generation and became a part of pop culture. In Awakenings in 1990, Williams plays a doctor modeled after Oliver Sacks, who wrote the book on which the film is based. Sacks later said that the way the actor's mind worked was simply a form of genius. In 1991, he played an adult Peter Pan in the film Hook, although he said he would have to lose 25 pounds for the role. Terry Gilliam, who co-founded Monty Python and directed Williams into his films The Fisher King and The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, said in 1992 that Williams had the ability to go from manic to mad to tender and vulnerable. Williams has the most unique mind on the planet. There's nobody like him out there. His roles in comedy and dramatic films garnered Williams several awards, including an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his role again in Good Will Hunting, as well as 2 previous Academy Award nominations for Dead Poets Society and as a troubled homeless man in The Fisher King. Among the actors who helped him during his acting career, he credited Robert De Niro, for whom he learned the power of silence and the economy of dialogue when acting. From Dustin Hoffman, with whom he co-starred in Hook, he learned to take on totally different character types and to transform his characters by extreme preparation. Mike Medvedev, producer of Hook, told its director, Steven Spielberg, that he intentionally teamed up with Hoffman and Williams for the film because he knew they wanted to work together, and that Williams welcomed the opportunity of working with Spielberg. Robin benefited from working with Woody Allen, who directed him, and Billy Crystal in Deconstructing Harry, which, as Allen had knowledge of the fact that Crystal and Williams often performed together on stage. Williams voiced characters in several animated films. His voice role as the genie in the animated musical Aladdin was written specifically for him. The film's directors said that they had taken a risk by writing the role. At first, Williams refused the role because it was a Disney movie, and he did not want the studio profiting by selling merchandise based on the movie. He accepted the role with specific conditions. I'm doing it basically because I want to be a part of this animation tradition. I want something from my children. One deal is, I just don't want to sell anything as in Burger King, as in toys, as in stuff. Williams improvised the majority of his dialogue, recording approximately 30 hours of tape, and impersonated dozens of celebrities, including Ed Sullivan, James Nicholson, Robert De Niro, Groucho Marx, Rodney Dangerfield, William F. Buckley, Peter Lorre, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Arsenio Hall. His role in Aladdin became one of his most recognized and beloved films, and the film was the highest grossing film of 1992. It won numerous awards, including a special Golden Globe Award for vocal work and a motion picture for Robin. Oh, he won the special. I wrote this script, believe that. It won numerous awards, including specifically for Robin, a special Golden Globe Award for his vocal work. Robin's William led the way for other animated films to incorporate actors with more star power, and he was named a Disney Legend in 2009. Williams continued to provide voices in other animated films, including Ferngully, The Last Rainforest, Robots, Happy Feet, and an uncredited vocal performance in Everyone's Hero. He also voiced the holographic Dr. No character in the live-action film Artificial Intelligence. He was the voice of the Timekeeper, a former attraction at the Walt Disney World Resort, about a time-traveling robot who encounters Jules Verne and brings him to the future. The success of Aladdin, in which again Williams voiced the genie, led to more celebrities voicing animated characters. According to a 2011 article in The Atlantic, less than 20 years ago, voice acting was almost exclusively the realm of voice acting people, specifically trained to provide voices for animated characters. As it turns out, the rise of the celebrity voice actor can be traced to a single film, Disney's 1992 breakout animated hit Aladdin. Since then, big names have attached themselves to animated films, from The Lion King to Toy Story to Shrek. Years after the film, Jeanette Hurston revealed in an interview that Robin had expressed interest in portraying Rubeus Hagrid in the Harry Potter film series, but was rejected by director Chris Columbus due to the British-only edict in place from J.K. Rowling. In 2006, he starred in 5 total movies in 1 year, including Man of the Year, Night Listener, and The Night Listener, the latter becoming a thriller about a radio talk show host who realizes that a child with whom he has developed a relationship may or may not exist. After his death in 2014, 4 films starring Williams were released: Night at the Museum, A Secret Tomb, Secret of the Tomb, A Merry Friggin' Christmas, Boulevard, and Absolutely Anything. Williams, short, very, very small section here, but Williams appeared opposite Steve Martin at the Lincoln Center in an off-Broadway production of Waiting for Godot in 1988. He headlined his own one-man show, Robin Williams Live on Broadway, which played at the actual Broadway theater in July 2002. He made his Broadway acting debut in Rajiv Joseph's Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo, which opened at the Richard Rogers Theater on March 31st, 2011. His daughter Zelda was named after the title character from The Legend of Zelda, a family family favorite video game series, and he sometimes performed at consumer entertainment trade shows. Williams was a big fan of anime and collecting figures. His daughter described him as a figurine hoarder, one of his figures being the fictional character Yunan Knut from the anime film Appleseed, which he was a massive fan of. He also liked the film Innocence, Ghost in the Shell, and received a DVD copy of Paranoia Agent with a signature from its director, Satoshi Kon. He also became a devoted cycling enthusiast, having taken up the sport partly as a substitute for drugs. Eventually, he accumulated a large bicycle collection and became a fan of professional road cycling, often traveling to racing events such as the Tour de France. In 2016, his children donated 87 of his bicycles in support of the Challenged Athletes Foundation and the Christopher and Donna Reeve Foundation. Moving into his addiction. During the late 1970s and 1980s, William had an addiction to cocaine. He was a casual friend of John Belushi and the Saturday Night Live's comic in 1982 from a drug overdose, which happened the morning after the two had partied together, along with the birth of his first son, Zach, prompted him to quit drugs and alcohol. It was a wake-up call, on a massive level. The grand jury helped too. Williams later said on Belushi's death, "It sobered the bleep out of me." Williams turned to exercise and cycling to help alleviate his depression shortly after Belushi's death, according to bicycle shop owner Tony Tom. Williams said, "Cycling saved my life." In 2003, Williams started drinking again while working on the film in Alaska. In 2006, he checked himself into a substance abuse rehabilitation center in Newberg, Oregon, saying he was an alcoholic. Years afterwards, Williams acknowledged his failure to maintain sobriety, but he said he never returned to using cocaine, delivering in a 2010 interview, cocaine makes you paranoid and impotent. What fun. There's no bit of me thinking, let's go back to that. Useless conversations up till midnight, waking up at dawn feeling like a vampire on a day pass. No, thank you, I'll pass. In mid-2014, Williams admitted himself into the Hazelden Foundation Addiction Treatment Center in Center City, Minnesota, for treatment of alcoholism. In March 2009, he was hospitalized for heart problems. He postponed his one-man tour for surgery to replace his aortic valve, repair his mitral valve, and correct his irregular heartbeat. His publicist, Mara Boxam, commented that he was suffering from severe depression before his death. His wife at the time, Susan Schneider, said that in the period before his death, William had been sober, but was diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's, which was information he was not ready yet to share publicly. An autopsy revealed that Williams had low-fuse Lewy body dementia, which had accidentally been diagnosed as Parkinson's, and this may have contributed to his depression. In an essay published in the journal Neurology 2 years after his death, Schneider revealed that the pathology of Lewy body disease in Williams was described by several doctors as among the worst pathologies they had ever seen. She described the early symptoms of his disease as beginning as early as October 2013. Williams' initial condition included a sudden and prolonged spike in fear and anxiety, stress, and insomnia, which only worsened in severity to include memory loss, paranoia, and delusions. According to Schneider, Robbins was losing his mind, and he was aware of it. He just kept simply saying, "I just want to reboot my brain." On August 11th, 2014, at his home in Paradise City, California, Robin Williams took his own life. His body was cremated at Monte Chapels of the Hills in San Anselmo, and his ashes were scattered over San Francisco Bay the next day. The final autopsy report, released in 2014, concluded that he died of asphyxia. Neither alcohol nor illegal drugs were involved, and the prescription drugs present in his body were at therapeutic levels. The reports also noted that Williams had been suffering from depression and anxiety. An examination of his brain tissue suggested Williams suffered from diffuse Lewy body dementia, describing the disease as the terrorist inside my human's brain. His widow, Susan Schneider, said that however you look at the presence of Lewy bodies, the presence of the Lewy bodies took his life, referring to his previous diagnosis of Parkinson's. Williams' death instantly became global news. The entertainment world, friends and fans responded to his death through social media and other media outlets. His wife, Susan Schneider, said, "I lost my husband and my best friend, while the world lost one of its most beloved artists and beautiful human beings. I am utterly heartbroken." His daughter, Zelda Williams, responded to his death by saying, "The world is forever a little darker, less colorful, and less full of laughter in his absence." President Barack Obama released a statement on Williams' death. Robin Williams was an airman, a doctor, a genie, a nanny, a president, a professor, and even Peter Pan, and everything in between. He arrived in our lives as an alien, but ended up touching every element of the human spirit. He made us laugh. He made us cry. He gave his immeasurable talent freely and generously to those who needed it. From our troops stationed abroad to the marginalized on our own city streets. Shortly after his death, Disney Channel, Disney XD, and Disney Junior all aired the original Aladdin commercial-free over the course of a week, with a dedicated drawing of the genie at the end of the airing before the credits, in honor of his theater work, The Lights of Broadway. Shortly after his death, Disney Channel, Disney XD, and Disney Junior all aired the original Aladdin commercial-free over the course of a week, with a dedicated drawing of the genie at the end of each airing before the credits. Eric Goldberg, the supervising animator of the genie in Aladdin, drew an image of the genie alongside a heartfelt message after Williams' passing. Disney CEO Rob Iger wrote on the illustration, "We're deeply saddened by the loss of Robin Williams, a wonderfully gifted man who touched our hearts, never failed to make us laugh, an incredible actor and a comedic genius. Robin will always be remembered for bringing some of the world's favorite characters to life, from a zany alien on ABC's Mork to the irascible genie in Disney's Aladdin. He was a true Disney legend, a beloved member of our family, and will be sorely missed. We join Robin's friends and fans everywhere in our mourning and offer our thoughts and condolences to his family during this difficult time. Rest in peace, Robin." In honor of his theater work, the lights of Broadway were darkened for the evening of August 14th. That night, the cast of the Aladdin musical honored Williams by having the audience join them in a sing-along of Friends Like Me, an Oscar-nominated song originally sung by Williams in the 1992 film. British heavy metal band Iron Maiden dedicated a song to Williams titled "Tears of a Clown" on their 2015 album The Book of Souls. depression and suicide, as well as how he attempted to hide his condition from the public. Robin led a full life filled with laughter, inspiration, and love. He touched so many lives that the story of his generosity are almost endless. Robin will forever be immortalized by his work, continuing to give us his unique brand of comedy with the truly humbling presence of his most dramatic roles. Robin personally affected and inspired me, having been and continuing to this day to remain one of my favorite actors in my time. Robin's beautiful life and tragic subsequent death, I feel, can remind us of a very single important lesson. Sometimes the people who seem the happiest on the outside are the ones that are saddest on the inside.